I'm Tina Tang, and this is my guest, Detective Joanne Son. Well, I'm going to be interviewing her today, but I just want to give you a few stats because I'm interviewing her because she is a detective. So just take note before all the questions start that for the in the US police force, there's 67% white males and 67% white, and it's 2% Asian. And in terms of the whole demographic of the police force, it's only 15% women. And when you compare that to the population of the US is 61% white and 6% Asian. So 2% in the police force, 6% in the general population. So that's why Joanne she's a unicorn. And we're gonna find out more about how she chose her career and what she's in, which is the Special Victims Unit as a detective. So, Miss Detective Joanne Son, let's start with the very beginning, which is, how did you come about becoming a police officer? This is our little mic.
Okay. I mean, basically, in college, I didn't really have that much direction, so I took a criminal justice class to be with a friend, and it was an afternoon class. And that just kind of segued into a bunch of different opportunities opening. I got an internship with the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office. And then I interviewed and got hired by the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. That's where I was for about 10 years. And I am currently at the Union County Prosecutor's Office as a detective assigned to the Special Victims Unit, where I've been for approximately 8 years. So I've had about 18 years. So I'm currently in my 18th year on the job.
Wow, most people are not even on a job for a couple of years before they switch. So actually I have more questions about college. So most people also don't think about their career when they're college. They think they know what they want to do. So when you took that class, it was that enjoyable that it inspired you to get an internship?
Not necessarily. It was just a class that I liked. I enjoyed the material, but I don't really necessarily know how to parlay that into a career. Yeah. It was just a class that I took, didn't even think that far ahead.
Okay, yeah. Which is like, I guess, normal life. Like, you're like, oh, this is good, and then it leads to the next year.
And then I knew that in my senior year, I kind of needed to get an internship. It looks good on your resume, right?
Right.
So when I was looking for different internship opportunities, kind of around that time, my brother had gotten a job with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Oh wait, so what does your brother do?
He's an attorney, but
okay,
he's not in law enforcement. But so I just kind of copied his route because I didn't really know what I was doing or have any direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what usually also the internships you had is not a typical college student. What were some of the reactions of your friends, and what did your parents say?
They didn't really have a reaction. I honestly don't know if they knew that I had that internship. It just wasn't something that we spoke about. I went to college, I went to my classes, I waitressed, I had an internship, but it wasn't really a discussion that we had. My parents, for some reason, they wanted me to, and I worded that wrong, but they wanted me to be a teacher or social worker when I grew up, but they never really articulated why they wanted that to be my career choice. And then we never really discussed what I would need to do in order to become a teacher or a social worker. That's just kind of what they had in their mind.
Okay, and then just so everyone knows, what's your cultural background?
So I'm Korean American, born here in America, and I was raised in New Jersey.
And as we know, for a lot of Asian parents have certain expectations. So for your parents, they were expecting you, they wanted you to be a teacher or a social worker. They didn't say why,
that's what they said that I should do.
That was the respectable job.
Yeah.
And when you had your first job out of college, that was directly into the police academy?
That was right into the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. I went in as a civilian, as an agent.
Oh, what does that mean?
It's kind of like, it's almost like a detective in training, in a sense that you're a civilian, that you sit in on interviews, you pick up evidence, you might transport some witnesses back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's kind of just learning what the prosecutor's office is, what they do, how cases put together. And then when you're an agent, they'll make a decision if they want to.
I'll just click this on.
Okay.
Because you'll be doing most of the talking. Okay. Sorry, guys.
if they want to promote you. So they did. After 2 years, they promoted me to the rank of detective.
Yeah.
And then let me get my hair out the way. And then I went to the police academy. It was a 21-week course.
Oh, wait, so you become detective before becoming a police officer?
So there's like a lot of different routes on how to become a police officer or detective. The route that I took is you're an agent at a prosecutor's office and they send you to the police academy. So
Okay.
a lot of people, if you take like the civil service exam and whatnot, you might get hired by a police department and then you get sent to the police academy, or you can pay your own way through the police academy through an alternate route and hope to get picked up. So there's a lot of different routes.
Okay,
So
that's
my
interesting.
particular journey was agent, detective.
Agent of the prosecutor's
Mhm.
office. Okay, so, because I'm sure other people don't get it as much. What does that mean? You basically are collecting the information for the prosecutor?
It's almost, there's so many little jobs and nuances to doing an agent, and also an agent at the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office is different from how other offices do it, but that's
Okay.
kind of what we did there. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a lot of questions. How did you end up going into the special? I know you said it was kind of, you had two choices.
Mhm.
What were your thoughts when you first had that offered as a choice?
Mhm.
And can you also explain what exactly that entails?
Sure. So actually, when I interned at the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office and I was learning about all the different units they have, the one thing that kind of interested me back then was accident reconstruction. And when they were going over special victims unit, I remember thinking like, oh, I don't want to do something like that.
Hey, what's accident? Oh, that's like a traffic
Yeah,
accident?
yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
I thought that was really interesting in college. And like, yeah,
What?
I don't know. So
So you're like, whose fault is it?
they were like, oh, if you hit a body at a certain, speed
Oh,
limit.
oh, not car, but like.
No, like just an
people.
accident in general. Yeah. And then
Okay.
SVU, and I was like, doesn't sound like anything I want to do.
Did you watch the show?
No.
So, but you were trying to decide.
So then when I was working in Hudson County and I was doing there's like a general trial team that just kind of does all the different crimes like robbery and whatnot. Then, they decided to move me into more of a specialized unit and they gave me the option. Do you want to go to the juvenile unit? Do you want to go to SVU?
Yeah.
And I just kind of chose SVU. I wasn't really necessarily inspired one way or the other.
Okay. And then can you explain to people like me who don't watch the show, what SVU is and what kind of crimes it entails?
Yeah, so each county in New Jersey kind of does things a little bit differently, but over in Union County, we investigate all sex assault allegations, more commonly known as rape, child physical and sexual abuse allegations. We do some human trafficking. And then I'm also part of the child abduction response team, also known as CART.
Wait, it's called what?
CART.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like the step before Amber is like kind of like a way to think about it, like the step before Amber Alert.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still want to get back because I think for you it's normal now. For most people, it's very unusual to see, as I said in the statistic, an Asian American woman as a police officer or even a detective.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, how has it been? I mean, I know we only know our own experiences, but being that in the police department or even in public, how have you had different treatment?
Mm-hmm. Obviously I can't speak for other people and what they've experienced, so I don't know if mine is
just yours.
better, worse, egregious, or common or whatever like that. But I've had, I guess, unique experiences. For example, the most basic things, such as if someone who only spoke Chinese walked into the office, they would ask me to come translate. And I'm like, well, I don't speak that language, it's a different country, and kind of have to explain those things. I've had a situation where I was testifying in court, and when you testify, the court takes a break, and so I went out to the hallway, just kind of sat there, just kind of thinking about my testimony, and then one of the sheriff officers just kind of leans out the door and goes, "China?" Like, no, I'm American. I was born here. He goes, no. Where are you really from? I'm like, well, I was born in New York, but I was raised here in New Jersey. And he's like, no. Where are you really from? And he would not accept any of those answers. I kind of knew where he was going, but at that point in my life, and I'm sure you experienced it, I'm kind of really sick of being asked, where are you from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you purposely be like, what do you mean? I'm American.
Yeah.
He was trying to reference your cultural background.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had, now that I talk about it, these things pop up. Like I had a situation where I was picking up breakfast. I was in my work clothes. I was in my nice dress pants, a blouse. I was just going through some emails, waiting for my breakfast sandwich, and some officer came up to me and joked about how I was the prostitute that he arrested over the weekend and how he had my cousin in the back cell. I'm like, what?
Wait, he knew you were a police officer, right?
He didn't, but I was
Oh.
dressed for work. I had like my dress pants, my
Yeah.
heels, my blouse. I had 2 phones.
So he randomly said that.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. But
You'd be like, excuse me, I'm a detective.
And then like with the public, I mean,
You mentioned something during COVID.
yeah,
Because it was so sensitive.
yeah. I mean, not only that, like during COVID, you know, everything going on with the Kung flu and China virus and all those things. And I had been working at a COVID testing site, and you know, sometimes my brain goes a little dark, like I go to the dark place, right? And everyone does that. Like, it's almost like when you're about to hit a door and the person takes too long to open the door, you know, my brain goes, oh my God, here's the day that the bullets come flying through the door. And everyone goes dark, okay? So during COVID, you know, I was like, are there gonna be people who are angry enough at Asians that they might do something? Or, you know, if they say something, fine, but are they gonna do something? I'm out there directing traffic, I'm there by myself. You know,
oh, you mean like do something physical?
yeah, like are they gonna be like, you know, are they angry enough? Are they scared enough? Maybe they might want to, you know, scare me with their car. I don't know, but that's just me taking it to a dark place.
Yeah.
Do
you think you have, because you do see the darker side of the way people are, that's also like a thought? You've seen the extremities of crime and some of the things that people have done.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you can't deny that when you do this kind of work, you know, it definitely affects your ability to trust people. And then you do see people at their worst, and you see people do horrible things to the ones they love. So sometimes you go to the dark place.
Yeah, that's interesting. That kind of segues to my next question is, so as someone who works as a police officer / detective, I don't know, but how does it affect does it affect your everyday behavior? Like, because I know you met your husband pre-detective, so has that changed the way you might survey a situation if you're in a casual social situation, not at work?
Yeah, I mean, you know, besides the obvious things of like, I don't want my back to the door, or just kind of assessing like where the exits are. Usually, for the most part, when
which normal people, well, I know I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah,
that's something you make note of.
Yeah, but other than that, if I'm in a social situation, I almost kind of want to turn it off. I almost kind of want to put my blinders on. I don't see it. I don't hear it. I'm here with my family. I'm here with my friends. I don't want to deal with other people's problems.
Yeah,
I
can understand, because it could be very stressful.
Yeah.
In terms of thinking about that. I had a question about, because of the things you see, you know, in Special Victims Unit, some of the question about demographics, like what are some common demographics for some of the crimes? I think you mentioned it's not often what we think it is.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things, like a lot of people teach their kids, oh, stranger danger, stranger danger. And of course, there are stranger type cases out there, but the more common offense is done by someone you trust. You know, it could be an uncle, it could be mom's new boyfriend, it could be grandfather, it could be your best friend. So unfortunately,
that's most of
it's usually someone that you trust, and that's why kids don't disclose, because it's someone that you and mommy trust, and it's a secret, and that's kind of the majority of the cases that we get. We do get the stranger situations, but those are few and far between, versus it's someone that you know. You know, something, an interesting training that I went to is they interviewed a bunch of offenders, and they asked them how they chose their victims. And these people would put themselves into positions where they had access to kids, coaches, teachers, stuff like that. And this one particular, well, and then this one particular guy talked about how he was like a teacher, and he volunteered to be the bus aide, because he wanted to be able to sit on the bus and see which kid had parents who would pick them up, which
Wow.
kid, yeah, and he would see if it was raining or snowing, which kid had that parent that came out with the umbrella and waited for them, because they would never touch that kid, because that kid has a supportive family. They would see the kid
That's
walking home by
fascinating.
themselves and pick that kid.
So they revealed this during interviews?
Yeah, so it was a training I went to years ago in Huntsville, Alabama, and they had just interviewed all these offenders who agreed to the interview concerning this topic. Very eye-opening.
They agreed to be interviewed.
Yeah.
I know this is an aside. So
Yeah.
someone who does that, obviously they've gone to prison. Because I remember my sister had said, she was a psychologist, that when she worked in a mental health place, that sometimes people don't know that what they're doing is wrong. So for the people that you are interviewing, they're strategically making those decisions. They also know that it's wrong, or?
Yeah, I mean, this is a study that some other, company did and whatever, but that's the impression that I got. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Yes, that's very eye-opening. This is a question from Ron that had posted, have you dealt specifically with any anti-Asian crimes as a detective? I guess of recent, I guess.
As of recent, except for the example of working the COVID testing side and, me thinking my dark thoughts. I work in a reactive unit, so the cases come to, like, we get referrals for cases. We're not out there looking for cases, like they come to us.
Oh, that's a whole nother department?
Well, just investigative units in general are reactive, like we get the referrals. But anti-Asian sentiment I've dealt with, I feel like, in a sense. I had a woman in the middle of an interview tell me that I didn't know what it was like to be a minority in this country. I was in the courthouse one day, just walking down the hallway, and some woman yells down the hallway, "Look at little China with her gun." I'm like, all right. So I experienced that.
Yeah. Has it ever affected, I guess, how has anything ever affected you on the job?
You kind of have to have thick skin, and I know that these things are being said to either provoke me, or it's, being uneducated, or just not caring, or just, so I don't really react to it. Yeah. It's not worth it. Yeah.
And this question was from Melanie Joannes. I think this will be helpful for a lot of people. So how do you mentally prepare when you're about to enter a knowingly dangerous situation?
I guess, whether or not we know it's going to be dangerous, or there's a potential for danger, we usually kind of brief with the group who's going to the particular situation, kind of who's going to cover the rear, who's going to cover the front, and kind of what everyone's role is. I don't really have a particular routine or thing that I do when we're about to hit a door or go into a situation. It's just I kind of get into that mind frame, like, all right, it's time to be serious, be just a little more extra alert about what's going on, just make sure to watch, where your people are, and just keep an open line of communication. Yeah,
I like that. And then my last question is, I think we talk about, a lot of times we'll probably ask you about how to take care of them, sort of like self-defense, whether taking a self-defense course. And I know you had some opinions about, or some feedback about, which I think everyone would love to hear about.
Well, no, I think if you want to take a self-defense class, that's great. But I don't think that people should be overly confident that taking one 45-minute self-defense class is going to get you out of a sticky situation. Also, in a self-defense class, you're in a controlled environment, right? So when you are walking down the street, if someone's going to do something, they're going to come up behind you. Basic things, like if you're walking by yourself and you're a female, maybe not have your, headphones on, or have,
which is really very common. People have headphones on.
Yeah. Or like people are just buried in their phones, just be a little more alert of your surroundings. But I feel like with these self-defense classes, it's like, it's enough, it will teach you enough to get away, not to like pummel the guy down to the ground, right? Get away, run, like there's nothing wrong with running away. I don't think so, at least. Maybe it's easier because we're women and we're just gonna run away from a situation, and we don't have to be these like big strong men, like, fighting people to the ground. But even things like pepper spray, for people who carry pepper spray, are you gonna have time to go in your bag and fumble around and find it as someone is on top of you? And have you
Yeah.
ever sprayed yourself to see how you would react when that thing goes off?
Oh, so I think that's something we don't think about. So when you spray, I mean, you'll get some backlash.
You
on it.
might, right? Like if you're in an indoor situation or it's windy or you aim the wrong way and you get yourself, because if you're in, you might be like wrestling or panicking and you don't know how you're going to react.
But how are you supposed to, nobody wants to be spraying themselves to prepare, like, let me see what I would do.
I bet you have a friend who wants to spray you.
Well, what would be the best way? It sounds like, well, to just get away is, for most women, is the number one thing. You're not going to be able to necessarily overcome the attacker.
In general, and speaking in general terms, that's my opinion. I would personally just want to get away. Yeah. Especially if I have nothing on me and I'm just dressed in everyday clothing. What am I going to do? You know?
Yeah.
Run away and get help.
So Joanne does not know that one of her old bosses had sent me a message. I'm just going to read you what he wrote. I think he's okay. Hi, Tina. I see that you're interviewing Joanne Son later today, and I wanted to express a couple of things to you concerning Joe. I was recently transferred out of SVU, but prior to that, I enjoyed the absolute privilege of working 7 years alongside of Joe. Although I was Joe's sergeant and later lieutenant within SVU, I've always felt that we were equals. In my almost 28 years in law enforcement, I'd be hard pressed to find another detective who's been more thorough with her investigations or more relied upon than Joanne Son. Any case investigation SVU received that was deemed complex or convoluted was assigned to you, knowing full well that the job would get done expeditiously and professionally. Simply, Joe has been as good as, or more often, better than any male I've ever worked with. But most importantly, what I love most about Joe is her quick wit, we know you're funny, her steadfastness, and her selfless desire to help others. You know, I leave you with these 4 words. I love Joanne Son. So with that, we're ending this interview. If you guys have any questions, please post. It was fascinating. You're the unicorn.
Oh, thanks.
See you guys later.